Greetings and welcome to the Power Gamer Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Dawson, joined as always by fellow host Johnny Polish. Johnny, welcome in here.
What
How are you
up?
doing this week, sir?
Whew, 4 gigs. Yeah, 4 gigs in 8 days makes Johnny a sleepy cowboy.
And you had one that didn't actually turn out to exist. So
Correct. Yeah, I accidentally double booked myself. It was pretty awesome.
that's always a fun feeling. You walk up, you're ready to go. You've prepared yourself to suck that day's dick, and then there's somebody else already set up, ready to go. And
couldn't have said it better myself. You're pumping yourself up. And you're like, man, I love playing this place. It's gonna be awesome. And you go say goodbye to the kids, and you pack the car up, and you get in the car, and you drive out there, and there's dudes standing in your spot setting up his speakers and shit. And you're like, oh, I just drove 30 minutes out here for nothing. I started looking through my old text messages to figure out what happened, and it was a misunderstanding on my end. I put a gig on my calendar that didn't belong there, so it was completely my own fault.
Yeah, I've only had it where someone actually double booked.
Yeah, I mean that's happened to me, but this is the first time I've ever like accidentally booked myself.
Yeah. And one time I was the second guy there, and then a different time I was the first guy there. And unlike you, I just was like, I don't actually want it. It was when I was working for that booking company. I'm like, you can just have it.
Right. It's
like,
all good.
I'm burnt out. You can have it.
Yeah, I'll enjoy not doing that. So I mean, it was nice to have the night off, but still, I mean, yeah, I did a private party 4th of July. I did a private party Sunday. I mean, it's just like it was a busy week of gigging.
Yeah, I was at one of the places that you played today. We went over to Red Eyes on the Eastern Shore, and I had some. Are you a fan of shrimp salad?
Oh yeah,
shrimp salad is amazing.
Yeah,
it's kind of a gross combination of words, shrimp and salad.
Yeah,
but it's just shrimp and sauce. And
was it like a shrimp salad sandwich or?
Yeah, so what they had on their menu, it was a shrimp roll. I was like, I'm definitely into that.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of that.
What came out were 2 hot dog buns, each with 4 salad shrimps in it, and that's it.
Hot dog buns?
Literal, just like basic fucking ass hot dog buns, not grilled or buttered or nothing, just right out of the Wonder Bread package hot dog buns.
Bro, I mean, if it was like a deli roll with like a little seed action or something, maybe you could let that slide, but just a plain ass hot dog bun, that's a crime. That's not okay.
Yeah, but it was at least 2 hot dog buns.
Yeah,
with the shrimp salad in it.
And I'm sure the shrimp was delicious.
Was good.
Yeah.
However, when you pay $16 for collectively 8 shrimp and 2 hot dog buns.
Bro, you know you're old when you're counting the shrimp, but I totally feel you on that. There's no way. I would have done that calculation too. Whoa. 1, 2, 3.
And you know,
$2 a shrimp?
My wife. Well, you got to count something for the hot dog buns. So, and then my wife orders the crab cake sandwich, and it's like the size of my fucking face, and it's on this beautiful brioche. I'm like, and that's $19. So I'm like, man, that extra $3 goes a really long way.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, dude. Like, yeah, there's no way. I'd be upset.
I just ate my shrimp rolls and said, you know,
lesson learned.
I won't order the shrimp roll again, even though it was very good shrimp salad. But that's basically my week outside of what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah,
because
I've
been a goddamn machine, a well-oiled machine, and I've been working on games, and I've been working pretty damn hard on this podcast, and I am pleased to see that you all have seen the work that I've been putting in. So sorry I've been a lazy sack of shit, and I won't be moving forward because I've made life much easier for kind of, I guess, a little behind the scenes of the show. Um, I do a lot of the technical stuff behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I write out our show notes each week. I do all of the audio editing, all the video editing, and all the publishing. And on my former computer that I used like for that stuff, it's woefully slow. And I just never, because it's so much fucking software to lift and move to another machine. All the different plugins that I use and stuff. It's an undertaking
Yeah.
to move that, and then all the hardware that I have, so like the interface and the microphones and the lights, and the cameras, the whole thing. I moved over to this newer, faster computer finally, and holy shit, I was able to catch up in no time. So,
Nice.
yeah, you should be seeing your releases on time, both on audio platforms, which you were basically getting those on time.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of you that like to either, I assume, predominantly listen, but perhaps also watch us on YouTube. So for you all, you will no longer be getting the short end of the stick from Mike Dawson. You'll be getting your content on time with everybody else now, because it's so much easier for me to get those videos uploaded. So if you check out the YouTube channel, if you haven't been there, if you just listen on our streaming or our audio platforms, check out the YouTube channel. There's a really nice podcasting uh, thing baked into it. We've uploaded a lot of thumbnails, so there's a lot to look at. The comment section's great. We're trying to build up our subscribers there. A few more of you subscribed over on YouTube. So I guess with that being said, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 124 of the Power Gamer Podcast. We do always ask that uh, to show your support, because this is a completely free show. We don't run advertisements. It's just you're here early on in its lifespan. So the only way to support us is just by simply either leaving a nice review on the audio platform that you're listening to us on, or if you're checking us out on YouTube, smash that like button and
That's right.
perhaps hit subscribe as well. And we'll be uploading the content there weekly, and we would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment and do that. That all being said, episode 124 is underway. We're going to start off this week's episode by talking about the games we've been playing this week. Johnny, I'll let you have the honors, because I have a completed game
Yep.
on my list here. So why don't you go ahead and get us started here?
Well, my week was, as far as gaming, was pretty capitalized on Marvel Snap, with it being a new season. And there's the new card Phoenix Force that is a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying the deck. It's a little RNG heavy. It is kind of one of those decks where if you're not getting your card draw by turn 4 or 5, you can kind of get the feeling that this is one I should probably retreat from. But when you get that combo, it's pretty devastating. Like Shuri pre-nerf devastating. It's very, very powerful. So I've been having a lot of fun with that and trying to rack up some conquest tickets because I want to get that infinite this time. So mostly Marvel Snap, but outside of that,
Didn't you say sorry to cut in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't there someone you had mentioned to me just in passing conversation that had a Marvel Snap podcast? Is that right?
Yeah, Super Tech God. Mm-hmm.
Where can people that are into Marvel Snap find that?
Give me 1 second.
Super Tech God, it was?
Super Tech God, yeah, that's his Twitch name. And their show is called Snapcast.
Snapcast.
Yep. If you just go to YouTube and search Marvel Snapcast, you will find them.
There you go. So, yep. Wanted to take a moment and shout out there. Hopefully we can do something with those guys at some point, because yeah, you and I both play a fuck lot of Marvel Snap.
Yeah, I think we could definitely shoot the shit and have a good show with him, and then vice versa. We want to get,
and then we should have a match between the Power Gamer Podcast,
and
Snapcast. where
Okay.
we show them that even though that they have their very own show dedicated to it, that we are still going to kick the absolute shit out of them.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. Let's do it.
You felt my fury firsthand in a OneUp battle.
Yep.
So
Yep.
challenge thrown, you wily motherfuckers.
All right, let's do it. So yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Marvel Snap, and then outside of that, I got a couple sessions of Jedi Survivor. Nothing really exciting to report on that, although I am still very much enjoying the game. Outside of that, the Steam sale finally got its claws in me, and I decided I needed to get something out of the Steam sale. Surely something's on sale that I want. So I saw in that list Boltgun that Mike had mentioned, and he described it as the most Johnny Paulus game ever.
Very much.
So, and I watched the trailer and I had to agree with him. I thought it looked really good. So I picked it up for $17.99 and started playing it. And about an hour and a half in, it came to the realization that I'm not going to play this whole game. It started getting really hectic. Like there was so many enemies and I was on a checkpoint that was actually frustrating me. And I was like, I know myself. I don't see me pummeling through what I'm in right now. I don't see myself doing it. I just wasn't enjoying myself as much as I wanted to. I did like how I think it was in level 2, there was a very obvious tribute to Doom, the first room. You come in and there's the 4 columns, and on the left there's the stairs that goes up to a power up, and then there's a door that goes into the next room. There was a level in Boltgun that was an exact copy of that, and I thought that was very slick of them to do. I thought the art style was really cool. The game overall, it wasn't that the game wasn't fun. I wasn't really enjoying myself with it. So I started second guessing my purchase and went back looking at the Steam sale, and I saw that Gotham Knights was $17.99 as well. And I came to the realization that the chances of me playing that beginning to end are much more likely. So in this case, I actually chose to refund Boltgun and use that exact same money to pick up Gotham Knights. Here comes the fun part. So Gotham Knights, I fire it up. I go into my settings. I link my account to Epic, whatever, bullshit. Everything's cool. Fire up the game. Runs like a dream. I mean, I'm talking like ray tracing is on. It's maxed out. And this game is at like 120 frames per second. Pegged. Running smooth as butter. As soon as I saw it was good, I was like, all right, cool. Let me go. This was like right before a gig. So I like shut it down. Went to the gig, did the gig, came home. I'm tired, but I wanted to play some Gotham Knights. I fire it up, and I get a critical failure. Unable to pull Direct 3D DX12 API. Try updating GPU. And I'm like, that sounds like a really fun error to get. So I go download my GPU driver. I restart the computer just for good measure. I fire it up, and I get the same error. I close it. I reopen it again. This time I don't get the error. And the menu comes up and I hit continue, and then it sits on the load screen forever. And I've let it sit there for 10 minutes and it won't load the game. So here we are with another game that I'm tempted to refund right now because I can't play it. So after the podcast tonight, I'm going to try to do some Googling, try to see if there's anything I can do on my end.
Let me interject.
Yeah.
Here's what you should do.
Yeah.
Okay. Return Gotham Knights. Because I swear to God, if you shelf any of your time that could be invested into Jedi Survivor to play Gotham fucking Knights, I'm going to drive over to your house and slap you.
Well, so the problem with Jedi Survivor is my wife wants to watch me play it, and we've been binging TV the last week.
It's okay.
So this is a wife game. I can play Callisto Protocol whenever I want. I have plenty of other games I can play whenever I want. But Jedi Survivor is unfortunately a me and the wife game. She's very sucked into it. She wants to see me play it.
And she wouldn't want anything to do with Callisto Protocol. So
none at all.
There you
she
go.
Would have just zero.
Focus on that.
Yeah, I think I probably will.
Yeah, and pocket your money.
Yep.
If you really want to play Gotham Knights and you're like, man, I really want to play it, but I don't want to pay anything, you can borrow my copy on PS5.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Fair enough. So that wraps up what you've been playing this week. I ironically this week have played a lot of Mario Golf Super Rush. Some with you, sir. Some with Mandy online. and some just by myself. I forgot how much fun this game is. It's been out for well over a year. And it's just fun. So yeah, if you need something mindless and enjoyable to play, Mario Golf Super Rush is still super fun. I'm trying to get some more action going on Switch with my friends'
Yeah.
because there's so many great games that you can play online with Switch. You just pop your headset into Discord on your phone or laptop or whatever, go
Right.
hang out on the couch or bring your Switch over to the desk and sit and play with your friends. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait for when Nintendo releases their next gen console,
Yeah.
and I pray this is it better have some built-in chat functionality,
Yeah.
please,
For
Nintendo.
real. For real.
Because yeah, that is still kind of, there is a way that I can source the audio in to uh my Astro preamp. It's just a huge pain in the ass, but
Yep.
there is ways to do it. But you need like an optical audio extractor for an HDMI.
Yeah, that's too much. Too much.
It's really not that much, but it is still a pain in the ass because you have to set it up every time that you're playing online with someone, kind of thing. But I digress. Mario Golf Super Rush, lots of fun. Play it with your friends, or if they come over, then you don't even have to worry about the fucking Discord. It's a lot of fun to play with somebody on your couch while you're drinking beers.
Yeah, no, I had fun playing it. I got big Hot Shots Golf vibes, and I played a bunch of the Hot Shots Golf games on the old PS2 and I think maybe PS3. But that's what it reminded me of, and I love Hot Shots Golf. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Pretty cool.
It's really one that you could sit down with the whole family and have a decent time with, so long as your kids aren't teenagers that want to do nothing fun with their parents ever.
I mean, I just say the problem with my kids is they're both extremely competitive. If you beat them in a game, it's like fucking meltdown central.
Just tell them that
They,
the positive stroke count is good.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, plus 15. You're really kicking my ass, dude. Yeah, Dad, you're at -5. You suck.
All right. And now for the big one for me to talk about. I talked about it some last week. But holy shit, guys, I beat Octopath Traveler 2. It took me 72 hours, which I put in 2 weeks time. So I've been on it with this game. And there's a reason for that. It's really good. I mean, it's phenomenally good. I actually struggle with the thought of going back to, because we do numerically score things. I know a lot of podcasts out there, and the new cool thing to say is, "Oh, numerically scoring games sucks," which I completely disagree with. I think it gives people a better basis for how you feel about something versus just saying it's good or it's bad.
Yep.
Um, and I struggle with this one because um, I have to remove myself from how I personally feel about it to be objective about it. If you have the same taste in games that I do, this would be a perfect 10. But if I'm being objective about Octopath Traveler 2, well, let's dig into that a little bit. Let me be objective about it. As I explained to you my thoughts on this game, now that the credits have rolled, now that I've done everything, literally everything in the game, I've completed. I have to say again that this improves on the first in every conceivable way. Which those words are easy enough to digest on their own. But they do sell short the scale of which it exceeds the first game in every way. I might say that Octopath Traveler 2 has the best written surprise of all time in it, that completely turns the whole game on its head. and is just absolutely amazing.
Wow.
You are given pieces that you don't realize are pieces of something bigger as you're playing the game. And even with me saying this, you don't, you can't get it until you get to a certain point, and then you have like that fucking Inception moment where you're like, what just happened? I mean, to a level I've never experienced before. Just the most incredible, best, well written, holy shit thing I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Um, Takes place in Octopath Traveler 2. And I mean, the other thing that's really great with Octopath Traveler 2 is one of my main gripes, one of the gripes a lot of people have with the first game, and a lot of the gripes that the lazy fucking reviewers on the internet put forth on this game is that the characters are disjointed. Well, for anyone who's actually played through this game, they would quickly find out that the characters are deeply intertwined in this game. Um, and again, in ways that you can't comprehend unless you've completed it. But the amount of interaction that the characters have is through the roof. And there's a whole section of the game where pairs of characters are broken off into complete storylines with one another. And you really get to watch your main character and the other 7 characters all form friendships that go deeper than, hey, I'm standing here, do you want me to travel with you?
Yeah.
And I mean, just go so deep and interconnected. And especially when they start doing the stories where you have a pair of characters that have to work together through an entire chapter of the game. And like the relationships and things they build in those moments and how they translate as you move in to what's called the final chapter of the game is just absolutely fucking bonkers. It's really well done, this game. Um, the combat is like the combat from first Octopath Traveler, which is to say that it's one of the best combat systems ever introduced in an RPG. So it wasn't broke, and they didn't
Yep.
fix it. Um, the map, the world that the game takes place in, the scale of it is just so much bigger than the first title. And it's like it's a world that you can really just sink your teeth into and live in, and you don't want to stop being in. I didn't want this game to end,
Wow.
is kind of how it felt. But all good things come to an end. So yeah, if you're me, this game is just it's flawless. Um, Objectively though, here's some things that people might not like about the game.
Okay.
Number one, it is a time commitment. There's no soft endings in this game. If you're gonna beat this game, you can't half-ass it. You can't do it half-heartedly. You really have to live with the game and play probably just it for close to 70, 80 hours. I worked a really efficient system in how I tackled this game, and it still took me 72. And I'm no spring chicken to JRPG, so I can see a lot of people probably needing 100 hours
Yeah.
to play through Octopath Traveler 2. Secondly, the game to a seasoned JRPG player is a normal difficulty that's easy to overcome. In fact, the first time I died in the game during my playthrough was at the final boss. But me needing to be objective here is if you're not a seasoned RPG player, this game is brutally tough. If you're trying to walk all the characters forward in levels at the same time, you're going to have a hard time with the game. Because if you're not at or above the level of the chapters that you're in, you're going to get fucking steamrolled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I played it where I just ran 4 characters all through the ends of their stories. I had this core of just mega monster players that I could then Sherpa each of the other 4 through the storyline with. So I made it easy on myself because I kind of knew what I was doing. But yeah, I could see a lot of people getting hit by the difficulty curve in the game, and that making it hard for them to want to keep doing. So lastly is the final boss. I don't want to get into detail. We'll just call him the final boss.
Okay.
The final boss in this game, and I'm not the only person that felt this way. I went online and unanimously he's been decreed as one of the most difficult JRPG bosses ever devised. He is an absolute maniacal
Oof.
fucking asshole. And it's a learning process and a strategy process and a building process to be able to take him down. So I said the first time I died in the game was to the final boss. When I died, I realized that I needed to go back in my saves about 4 hours to retool some major things to make my life easier. And I did it with a smile on my face because I'm like, it's a JRPG. This is great.
Yeah.
But that's gonna torch some people.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'll say about the final boss is that if you were just favoring 4 characters, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a real bad time. You need all 8 characters decked out to the fucking nines if you're even gonna stand a chance.
Damn.
Yeah. So the game is tough. It's gonna have. So I have to be objective about it. And I think even in my initial thoughts, I was probably too high on it from my own tastes.
Right.
So my benchmark right now has been Triangle Strategy, which I think I was fair with in giving it a 9.6. And that game's very accessible, I think, to a lot of people. Although personally, I would now say that I like Octopath Traveler better than that game. And that I think Octopath Traveler is perhaps the second greatest JRPG of all time.
Wow.
I'm going to give that game a slightly lower score than Triangle. Because I think that's going to be more fair to what other people are going to expect from the game.
Yep.
I will say that if you like JRPGs, this is it's a masterpiece. But if you're just a game player, you might struggle with it. So Octopath Traveler 2 is a 9 out of 10.
It reminds me of when I beat the Monkey Island game from last year. I wanted to give it a 10 because to me, who grew up on point and click adventure games, if you dig point and click adventure games, dear God, play the newest Monkey Island game. But there's a whole lot of people that would be bored to tears playing that game. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you described the cons of Octopath Traveler 2, which there were not many,
and they didn't really feel like cons to me personally. Yeah.
Right. But to me, I go, man, I don't know if I have it in me to devote 90 plus hours to a JRPG. Because you're the type that you have the guide on the other screen and you just, I do this and then I do this and then I do this and okay, cool, that's done. That's not how I play games. I prefer a game that I don't have to go to the guide. So when there's a game like that where if I do the guide, it's 70, and if I don't do the guide, it's 95, and I'm going to be pissed off half the time. I mean, that's a high cost of entry for me.
I definitely am doing research on YouTube and on websites, learning how to appropriately min-max my characters and my squad, so I can wreck face. No one in my party was below level 80 when I went to the final boss.
Yeah.
And the level requirement for the final boss is 50. and he
Oh my
still
God.
could one-shot several party members
Wow.
like that.
That's unbelievable.
You have to master the abilities of each character and then piece together what secondary jobs synergize best with their abilities.
Yep.
And there's 4 jobs in the game that you could completely miss. They're hidden, but they're the 2 of them are absolute, well, 3 of them really. Uh Inventor, Arcanist, and Arms Master are like super necessary for this final fight.
Wow.
And you have to pair them with the right characters and level up their ability
Yep.
to use those jobs. So it's a difficult game. So
I mean,
Triangle
I think,
Strategy, on the other hand, you just sit
yeah.
down and play it and you have yourself a good ass time.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, my takeaway with your review on Octopath Traveler 2 is that I probably do need to play this, but I need to be mentally prepared for it and know what I'm getting
play
into and
Triangle
when I'm
Strategy
ready
first.
to. Yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Because I
But
still think Triangle Strategy is like in the tactics genre.
right. Yeah.
It's really, really good. So
So on the subject of Octopath Traveler 2, why do you think the review scores are so tough? If it's exceeded the first one in every way, I mean, I remember the Metacritic score being significantly lower.
yeah, I haven't really paid too much attention to other reviewers of the game.
Right.
The 2 guys that I listen to the most, ironically, I think hate one another. But it's
I take it back. They're rated about the same.
yeah, the 2 guys I listen to the most are Colin Moriarty from um, Last Stand Media
Mm-hmm.
and Jason Schreier from Bloomsburg.
Who has been very vocal about his love for this
And
game.
I tend to usually agree more with Colin. But in this case, it's one of those ones where I'm definitely more in line with how Jason views it.
Yeah.
But Jason is the guy that sat down and plowed through it and sunk his teeth into it. Where Colin admittedly had not as much. So I think, you really have to be committed to play a game like this. It's not
Right.
just a sit down and whatever. Like it's a bear, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that wraps up what we've been playing this week. I'm looking forward to my next Japanese adventure as I plow through my Switch backlog. I think Fire
Wait.
Emblem is long overdue for me,
Yep.
and Three Houses, I've heard from many people I align with, is like one of the best games ever. So I think that's next. I might take a cup of coffee and just beat Kirby real quick, but Fire Emblem, I think, is going to be the next one that I work on. All right. Next up, I was having a thought to myself, and I thought I would share that thought with you all. Why am I still paying for Game Pass? Redfall. Redfall was the last game of significance, truly, to release on Microsoft Game Pass, and that was back in May. Now, you'll all recall the big hype with Game Pass is that you get day one releases for those beautiful, wondrous, exclusive games. And boy, have they been scarce. I'm not going to discount that Game Pass has a great library behind it. But I often think to myself, man, I really haven't touched this And why am I still paying for it? Because I'm really not interested in the library of old games. I get what I would call a better library with PlayStation's Plus, which I have the middle tier of. And all these thoughts just kind of came together, and I started thinking to myself, I'm like, well, let's see what's coming out in the immediate future and in the distant.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what information we have about these titles. But then let's also think about that whole Sony thing, and that's kind of where I want to start.
Yeah.
So Sony's whole deal has been basically creating a different missive, and that is that they're not going to give you the day one releases.
Mm-hmm.
That if you want the premium games that make PlayStation what it is, that you're still going to need to go out and pay for those, or wait for them to go on sale or whatever. But that they're not just going to give them away with their service. However, if you want a library of great games to play, that is there for you. On the other side of the coin, there was a lot of contention thrown Sony's way because of this. But the argument made that Microsoft and Xbox give day one releases, what weight does that hold? What promise have they fulfilled? Or am I really just blindly paying for the hope of these day one releases that either never come or fall flat on their face, or I get watered down versions that I end up having to pay for downloadable content anyway? I'm looking at you, Forza Horizon. So what am I still paying for Game Pass for is the question.
Yeah.
Johnny, I guess your thoughts between Sony just coming out and saying we're not doing this thing.
Yep.
And I would say on the other side, Microsoft just really failing to deliver on the thing that Sony has just said that they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, you and I have been singing the praises of Xbox Game Pass essentially since the show started, and this is the first time we've ever really had any kind of trepidation toward Game Pass. But you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. I read your headline, and it was like I got slapped in the face. It's like, why am I paying for? I mean, it's there. It's got a lot of games. So I mean, like, one of the thoughts I had on it was, we have to keep in mind that we are jaded old fucks that own all the consoles and gaming PCs, right? We can play whatever version comes out for whatever, we can play it wherever, right? But if I were a person that hadn't had a game console in 5 years and decided, I saw the 87th Xbox commercial on TV and said, I really used to love my Xbox 360. You're going to spend the $15 and go, holy shit, I can play all the Dishonored games, and I can play all these Doom games, and I've got all the Gears games, and like there's a ton of great games on there. But for us jaded old fucks that have it all and have played all these games, it's like, why am I paying? I'm not going to go back and play Gears 3. I know you just did, but I'm probably not going to. And other than that, I mean, it's when you look at the newest titles that just came out on Game Pass, there's a lot of shovelware on there, man. I'm not excited about McPixel 3 on Game Pass. There's a whole lot of titles, right? Just look at it and go, like, this is like $5 Switch store shovelware that they're now like, oh, now on Game Pass. Like, dude, where's the big stuff, right? Like, if they had Jedi Survivor, you got something to talk about. Shit, even if you had Callisto Protocol, you have something other than, right now, it's old games and indie titles. And that's it. If you're really into fucking indie titles, if your like dream is like, awesome, I have a side-scrolling platforming Metroidvania game that 20 people have played, and I love Metroidvania games, you're gonna have a ball, and then you're gonna beat that game, you're gonna go move on to the next indie title. But I look at that list of 100 plus games and I go, which one am I going to hit install on? And the answer is I go on the Switch store, or I go on the Sony store, or I go on the Steam store, and I just buy the game that I want to play. And when I look at this list, these future titles and the shit and when it's coming, I have no real reason to pay for the Game Pass until September, October. And then with that money that I saved, why don't I just buy the game?
Absolutely. And one of the things I looked at, because I do like a lot of indie games,
Right.
is if I just didn't spend that 15 a month and I wish listed all of those indie titles on my Switch or on Steam and waited for them to go on sale, which they do
Yep.
fairly frequently because they're trying to sell units. How many of those games could I buy with that $15 a month? I mean, one of my favorite indie titles of all time, Blasphemous, which is not on Game Pass, is $6.
Right.
I mean, that's the month of your life right there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's and absolutely, if you are the new fresh faced person and you're buying a console and you want to have an instant library of stuff to play, it totally makes sense. But on the other
Yeah.
side of that coin, though, is wouldn't it make more sense to just buy a PlayStation where you're going to get the same thing and then quality titles that you can buy to supplement that library with? Would it
Yep.
make more sense to be on PlayStation?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to be walking out of GameStop with Spider-Man 2 in my hand with a big fucking shit-eating grin on my face because I can't wait to play that game. I will beg Sony to take my money. And that's where Microsoft doesn't have me there right now. Like, I mean, I know we're both really excited for Starfield, but...
Well, I'm glad you brought up Starfield because that's the first thing I want to talk about. Because
Mm-hmm.
as I think about my Game Pass, I also think about my Xbox Series X. Why do I have an Xbox Series X? So, the last game of consequence to come out on the system was Redfall. And it ran so poorly, it actually made me motion sick to where I couldn't fight it. Like, so I wound up just playing it on my PC because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I would say at this point, I am so used to 60 frames per second that it has to be a special kind of game for me to
Yep.
be able to, or really it has to be so perfectly optimized for 30 frames. You know, and there's some games out there that do it.
Mm-hmm.
Legend of Zelda, you don't even notice runs at 30 frames on the Switch.
Yep.
Plague Tale, the latest one. You feel it, but it's not inhibitive in that game.
It's not detrimental to the experience. Agreed.
But when I'm playing these first person games, it's like, how do you fix low frame rate? Motion blur. I just couldn't do it. It'd make me sick every time I sat down with it. So I wound up just having to finish that game from my PC. When I've looked at Starfield in the reveal footage, what do I see a shit ton of? Motion blur. Every time the character moves, there's just a fuck ton of it. And I'm thinking
Uh-huh.
to myself, how am I going to play that game at 30 frames per second on my Series X? Which is where me personally, where I would prefer to play it. Because I like playing games on my consoles, but I'm pretty sure at this point already that I'm just going to be playing Starfield on
Yep.
my computer
Same.
because I'm not going to want to have to deal with that game at 30 frames per second. So let's dig in a little deeper because we have Starfield coming up, which, yeah, not super excited to play on my console.
Yeah.
Forza Motorsport 8, which is coming out October 10th. This is actually, let me pause for a second. If you navigate to the United States Xbox's website, and go to their section where they highlight playing new releases on day one.
Mm-hmm.
These are the games that they are putting front and center in their main marketing outlet on their
Yep.
website. So Starfield, which we covered, Forza Motorsport, which comes out October 10th. The next most important game they have to tell you about is Party Animals, which comes out September 20th. And then finally, Hollow Knight Silksong, which is coming sometime in 2023. It still hasn't had a lockdown release date. Those are the 4 most important games coming to Game Pass. I would say 2 of them are really significant for Xbox because they're developed by first-party Xbox studios. The other 2, I don't know why this is selling Game Pass.
Yeah.
Coming soon to Game Pass for day 1 release. Here's what they have on their website to show you. Ready? The Lamplighters League, Venba, Thirsty Suitors, Dungeons 4, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the indie game developed by his 16, I guess now 17-year-old Way to the Woods, which doesn't seem to be able to get a release date to save its life. It was supposed to come out in March, and now it's just up in the air. Lies of P, and Exo Primal. Johnny, how excited are you for those 8 games?
I'm excited about Shovel Knight Silksong, but that's probably a game that I could buy for $15 or $20 within 3 months of release. So why would I spend the money for the subscription?
Yeah, I'd probably want that on my Switch anyway.
Yeah.
So, and going through those other 8 games that are secondary, Lamplighters League comes out October 3rd.
Yep.
Venba comes out July 31st. I know nobody can wait for Venba.
I mean, I'm a little excited for Lamplighters League, but is it a reason to pay for the subscription? No.
I mean, but if that isn't, surely Thirsty Suitors is.
Thirsty Suitors looks hilarious, actually. I've watched.
Yeah, I'm actually glad it's coming to a Game Pass because I would never spend money on it.
I think that's a fair point. I think you're probably right.
Lies of
It looks funny, but would I spend $30 on it? No.
Exactly. So how cheap could you get it in a few months? Game Pass makes a lot of sense for game developers of these kinds of games. It removes the doubt of what they're going to get paid. How does it get on Game Pass? They agree to a sum. Microsoft pays them up front. It comes onto the service. You were saying earlier, man, if Jedi Survivor was on there, they can't afford it.
Yeah.
They can't afford to put a game like Jedi Survivor on there.
Yep, I know.
I mean, how many millions of dollars would be the question? Tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions.
Well, and another side to this is that if you look at the Sony service directly against the Game Pass, here's another shot fired from Sony, right? Although Sony doesn't give you God of War Ragnarok with your subscription, they don't give you Spider-Man 2 with your subscription. What they have been pretty good with doing is like fast forward 12 months and you're probably going to get Horizon Forbidden West. You're probably going to get Spider-Man 2. Like, it's just, if it's not I got to play it this year, you will probably get it on the subscription service. I mean, when you look at Xbox, right? Xbox owns Bethesda. Why isn't Doom Eternal on Game Pass? Newsflash, it's not. You can play Doom 3, you can play Doom 64, but you cannot play Doom Eternal for free on Game Pass. Why? They own it.
That kind of blows my mind. I didn't know that wasn't on there.
Right? I thought for sure when I was doing my research for this episode, because they have a bunch of these old franchises.
I think it
and
is
they're pretty good
on console, but it's not on PC.
Is that what it is? Okay. Because I noticed on PC it was like $17.99. I was like, why is this
Yeah,
not
I think for console, which why the fuck would you want to play the game on a console? But for console players, it
true?
is there. There's a lot of when you drag PC Game Pass into the mix, there's a lot of well, you don't get this here, but you get it there. I think Doom Eternal is on consoles, but here's the better question, right?
Yeah.
So all the Bethesda games are on PlayStation Plus. So why wouldn't you just get a PlayStation?
Yeah.
Future titles coming to Game Pass on day one. Fable, which maybe sometime in 2024.
Probably 2025.
Outer Worlds 2. No ETA on that. Maybe 2026. Contraband. 2024. Lightyear Frontier next year. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 next year. One I'm actually excited for.
Yeah, that's a dub. We'll take that as a dub.
Everwild. Avowed, which Avowed looks decent.
Avowed looks good.
And Perfect Dark reboot, we'll call it, sometime in 2026. So of the games that are coming day one, right? If you had to ask me, I'm really only interested in Starfield. I might have a cup of coffee in Forza Motorsport because I do play sim racing games. Lies of P, Fable, and Senua. So Senua and Fable should both be $70 games. Right?
Agreed. Yep.
Forza
Starfield as
and
well.
Starfield should both be $70 games. So the question I have to ask myself is, would I rather just own those 4 games or wait around and pay this subscription for maybe 3 more years at $15 a month? So 15, 36 times, right? That's $540. So shouldn't I just buy those 4 games that I actually care about, that I would in fact argue are probably the 4 games that most people care about?
Yep.
I mean, you could delete Forza. I'm being generous here. Sub a different game in for Forza. If Avowed's your thing, if Outer Worlds 2's your thing, which, I mean, you'll definitely be able to play Outer Worlds 2 for free on everywhere at some point. I mean, even Epic Game Store will probably give that away at some point. But I mean, that's the price of the whole goddamn console, just waiting for a handful of games to come out. And this is their site. This is their site. That is all that's there. That's it.
Right. We're not nitpicking here. This is what they're saying.
This is what they're excited and what they think is selling their subscription.
Yep.
Why don't you cancel your Game Pass and just buy Starfield? And if you have a PlayStation and you really want a huge catalog of old games, just do it there, right? I mean, you can fucking sell your Series X because all the games that come out run like trash on it. You just get them for PC where they actually bother to optimize for a countless array of fucking hardware configurations versus the one fucking hardware configuration that they know you have when you buy their console, because that makes sense. So I'm curious, Mr. Paulus, not to put you on the spot, but do you still have any ideas or thoughts to sway this disgruntled customer over here? Or have I made a case that's insurmountable?
You've made a pretty tough case. I mean, it's because we are right now in the Xbox era of wait and see, right? Wait and see if Starfield is a fucking game changer. Wait and see if Fable is the second coming of Christ. Wait and see. But even still, if that's what you're going to wait and see, you're spending too much money to get there. And you could just play them on the PC. I mean, dude, look, we were all excited when this generation of consoles was announced. We were like, yes, a real console war, right? Microsoft is acquiring all these companies. We're going to get an actual fucking fisticuffs console war. This generation, the war's done. Sony just decimated Xbox. Decimated Xbox. In the court of public opinion, it's a wrap.
I think the bigger problem for Xbox, and I don't know how closely you've been following this whole all the court documents and the Activision FTC hearings. But a few years ago, someone within Microsoft had written about, an internal email, CC, I think it was to Phil Spencer, about walking back Game Pass. Because this Game Pass is a problem. And I've said this from the start, is that whereas it's a great deal for you, Joe customer, which I think is not as good a deal as it once was, but it's still a pretty decent deal for you, Mr. Joe customer.
It is.
That it's Game Pass, the thing that was supposed to win them this console generation, has completely fucked them. It absolutely has. I mean, this whole thing has backfired in their face. And you know what? It's not ironic, because that's really on brand for Microsoft when it comes to the Xbox platform. They have got every fucking thing wrong since they came out with the Xbox One. And they didn't magically overnight figure out how to stop being idiots. And it's comical, because can you imagine if the New York Yankees walked out the most incompetent baseball team? Because that's what this is.
Yeah.
Microsoft has all the money. So it's not a dollars and cents problem. It's a competence problem.
Hey, Microsoft, are you hiring? Do you need somebody to come save you? Just hire us. We'll tell you what to do.
Yeah. Stop. Just stop. That's what you They shouldn't stop, but they stop buying. It's not doing anything. You need to fix what's happening in your own studios. I mean, I'm on their site, right? Starfield, Forza. Where the fuck is everything else? Where is it? I mean, Senua, you bought into that. That's not really you.
Right.
Fable, you've been sitting on that IP, choking it to death for the past fucking 15 years. I mean,
Psychonauts 2 was dope, but that was a year ago.
And that's, again, a studio that you just bought. That's not you. Psychonauts became famous from the PS2. So what are they doing? Perfect Dark? Yeah, that's rare. Perfect Dark came out on Nintendo 64. That's where that started. So I would say that if you are a fanboy of that console system, I don't, why?
You're going to run out of copium
The
soon.
only argument that I've heard that made sense is from like these ultra patriots that are like, well, it's an American company. Which, I mean, we know how not.
There's There's that excuse. There is also I've heard from a few Xbox fanboys that for them it's about their friends list. All their friends play Xbox, so that's what they play on. I get it, but like you and your buddies need to just discuss and just decide it's time to go
Yeah,
get a
I mean,
PS5.
if you're just sitting around playing Call of Duty or
right,
Sea of Thieves or, the different games as a service, I'm sure it's fine.
right. If you're playing Overwatch every night with your buddies, the Xbox is great.
But you're also not listening to this podcast
Probably true.
because there's
Probably true.
no chance you're listening to this podcast if all you do is play Call of Duty. Because we never talk about Call of Duty.
Nope.
We're sorry. Call of Duty Troy's. We'll maybe mention it next time we actually play a single player campaign in one. Maybe.
I mean, I heard the single player campaign, the last one was good, but I'm not going to spend 60, 70
That's
bucks
the
on
problem. Yeah.
Yep. If they just said, here's the campaign, $20, I'd be like, done. Take my money.
And Mr. Me that wants to buy the disc is like, I'm not buying that disc. There's nothing on it.
Right.
It's a blank check of despair.
A blank check of despair.
All right.
Sorry, Xbox fans. I know we just blew the wind out of your sail, but it had to be done.
Yeah, I'm just let us know your thoughts. If you've made it through this whole thing and you didn't hang yourself or something, just leave us a comment and tell us where you're at and why you're still hanging on to this absolute factory of sadness. Johnny, it's time for us.
A factory of undelivered promises.
Johnny, it's time for our final segment of the week. That segment, of course, is OneUp. Why don't you get us started with your OneUp, sir?
Sure. The newest season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I know I've already raved about the show when I finished season 1. I'm here to rave about it some more. I'm only 3 episodes into the new season, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is my favorite Star Trek related IP since Next Generation. It's very, 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 very good. It's everything that a Star Trek show should be. Very serial and episodic, right? They do so good at that very old school Star Trek trope of like, sir, we've got a distress signal. And they're like, oh shit, what's going on? And it's some amazing sci-fi concept or an amalgamation of this sci-fi concept with that sci-fi concept, and the setting up of it in the first few minutes of the episode, you're like, oh bro, I'm in, let's go. I see where they're going with this is going to be fucking awesome. And then it is awesome. So if you enjoy like the Star Trek utopian society, future of human race, and living amongst all these races and how we would navigate it, and also the commentary on the current woes that we deal with. They go into bigotry, they go into climate change, they go into, I'm sure the conservatives would call it woke, but Star Trek's always been kind of woke. The show's fucking awesome. If you liked old school Next Generation Star Trek, I pay the monthly subscription for Paramount Plus, and I occasionally am greeted with top tier movie titles that I'm excited about. But other than that, Strange New Worlds is why I pay my subscription. The show's fucking incredible.
Very good. My OneUp this week is Mulch. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to talk about Mulch, because here's what's nice about Mulch. Other than it giving your yard a wonderful and clean look and smell. You know what feels nice about Mulch is when you buy Mulch, okay, you fill up an entire truck full of mulch and you go to the cashier, and the cashier rings you up and says, yeah, that'll just be $60. And you're like, I filled up an entire goddamn truck full of mulch.
Yep.
$60. What else could I fill up an entire truck with for $60? Good old Mulch.
Yeah,
it's a true feeling of achievement to buy that much stuff and roll it out on a giant cart and only have to pay $60 for your your wood chips and moss and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So my one-up this week is Mulch. And my dog is
dope.
very happy with her newly renovated potty.
Awesome.
Because now it's all fresh mulch. No more dirt, no more mud. Nah, she's got a nice bed of mulch. She's super thrilled. So, yeah, I cleaned up my whole backyard on Saturday, and it was an ordeal, but I did it. Even power washed the deck. So
Hell yeah.
It's very clean out there, but I'm very happy with my mulch purchase. So, who wants to mow a lawn? Just get some mulch.
Just mulch that
I love that
bitch.
word, mulch.
It is a funny word.
Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this week's episode. We will, of course, be back again next week with another great episode for you to enjoy. Until that time, I'm Mike Dawson.
And I'm Johnny Paulus.
Tune in next time. Take care.
Catch you on the flip-flop.
Oh, yeah. Burp.